talk about short sales today, so let's take just a minute to explain to the group what is the definition of a short sale.
Well, the simplest definition is that the proceeds of the sale are not adequate to pay off the loan and the costs of the sale. In that case, then going to the lender and asking to negotiate what is market value for the property in order for them to accept less than what's owed on the property. There's a shortfall, a short, and thus the term short sale.
It's my understanding that somewhere between 3 and 7% of the closings that are taking place in the multiple listing service are short sales. Does that sound about right?
It does. It does. There's certainly more of them in escrow than are actually closed at this point in time, simply because the time frame that it takes to get a short sale closed is extended in comparison to an REO or a traditional sale.
Okay, and that's one of the questions that I've got here, because from the emails that I've received from viewers, they've asked, a lot of them are quite honestly frustrated. Now, you're primarily represent sellers in the short sale.
Correct.
So I've gotten a lot of emails from agents that are working with buyers out there who are frustrated because I guess the length of time to get a response. First of all, how long is it taking, and what can the viewers expect it to take?
You know, it varies depending on the lending institution and how many are involved. If there's a first primarily or a first second, and sometimes there's a first second HELOC, it just depends on the lender. It can be as short as, in our experience, 30 days to complete from the time you have an offer in, all the way to 120 plus. So it can be a really long process.
So 30 to 120 days. Is this to get an answer from the lender?
It's to get the answer, which we would consider it an answer. It's really the approval. It's, yes, we will accept this, and you can go ahead and complete the transaction.
Clear on one issue. Let me ask this. Is there any other reason that a seller, rather than getting frustrated and going to foreclosure, would want to actually pursue with their real estate professional doing a short sale?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there's a great advantage that was very recent, which is Fannie Mae guidelines changed in May, the end of May this year, and it states that a buyer that has had a short sale has an impact of 2 years for qualification purposes for the next time that when they're in a position to be able to move on to their next home.
Sure.
Whereas a foreclosure has a 5-year impact. 5 years they must sit out of the arena, according to Fannie Mae, in purchasing. So that's significantly different and can change lives. You know, a couple of years makes a big difference in being able to get a fresh start.
This is a key point. So let's go back. I want to make sure that the viewers get this, because sometimes when you're in the middle of being upside down on your property, there's a certain amount of frustration and you just give it the I don't care.
Right.
But for a short-term dissatisfaction and frustration, what you're talking about may have long-term impact for somebody.
Absolutely.
So you're saying short sale, 2-year impact, and not necessarily as bad as a foreclosure.
It's certainly not. And with Fannie Mae's guidelines, it actually proves that. It states that it would be a 3-year difference in the impact. That's significant for someone's life.
So you're right. This could actually change somebody's life. So it really makes financial sense and stability sense for a person and their families to get together with a professional and do a short sale.
Absolutely. It does. And it can be a much smoother process than most would expect. It's just a matter of being persistent and handling it in an appropriate manner.
I think one of the things that's got everybody kind of confused is it's kind of a new concept that we haven't seen either at all before, or if we have seen it, the last time we saw something like this was maybe back in the late 70s or early 80s.
Right. Very prevalent then.
And many of the people in today's market weren't even in the market or didn't even own homes back in the late 70s or early 80s.
Sure.
And we may be at that window right now where the best buy out there might just be a short sale.
Absolutely, and it's a viable one, and it's actually a very rewarding process on both ends of the scale.
So is it a situation here where we ought to be, or where the agents working with buyers ought to be, I guess, counseling their buyer clients and saying, look, don't get emotionally involved with this property?
That is the key, absolutely. That's both on the seller and buyer side, a clear understanding of the process and what it could entail.
And are there other offers? Are there multiple offers coming in while you're waiting for this first offer to be approved?
Absolutely. Many times, even in the contingent status, there's still activity because people recognize and agents recognize that because of the long process, a lot of times buyers begin with great intention and disappear by the end of the process.
Okay, so here's a question for you then. Why do they want to get in that game?
You know, the short sale properties can be equal or certainly better value than the REOs. And it's not nearly as competitive, again, because there are a lot of people who are interested initially, and then by the time we get to the approval stage, there are very few, maybe one standing.
There seems to be some different ramifications for an owner-occupant who is doing a short sale, who's kind of doing a short sale because they're upside down, compared to, say, an investor who has decided to do it where the house is vacant and they're in California or another state.
And with the President's relief bill that was recently passed several months ago, there is relief for primary occupants in their home, and it is working, and we're seeing people who have closed escrow going into their tax year without that kind of ramification.
And that's key, and I just want to remind all of the viewers that right now, and again, we're not accountants, but that tax relief is in effect until January the 1st of 2010. So what that means is if somebody is an owner-occupant, there is potentially some great relief there for them should they go forward and complete a short sale between now and January 1st of 2010.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or pointers that you would give to real estate agents that are interested in working with short sale sellers?
I think education is the key. Just as it is of knowing what's going on in the market today, understanding the short sale process and being educated to the point where you can properly educate the seller. With a short sale, you can control the timing much more than you can with a foreclosure. You also are able to step back from the frustration and allow a professional agent to handle the majority of the correspondence, if not all of it, with the lenders. So it relieves pressure. It provides a little bit more sense of serenity, some security in knowing that at any given moment you won't have a marshal coming to your door. Likely, if things are proceeding as we would hope, there's a lot more planning that can take place. That's one part of it.
So it can, in a sense, relieve a lot of the pressure or that pressure valve that that sellers or homeowners are feeling because they can't make the payments.
Absolutely.
So well, that kind of emotional stress release is certainly valuable.
You bet, and it makes a difference, I think, in the seller's participation or desire to kind of re-engage and try to work through the process in more of a traditional environment.
Are you finding lenders becoming more cooperative with sellers and homeowners in this state of the economy, I guess I could say?
I think that they are more cooperative. They're not as organized as we'd like to see. I think they're becoming more so. The sheer numbers in trying for a lending institution to manage the transition and how quickly it happened with the number of short sales that are out there, and REOs for that matter, really caused a lot of confusion and therefore frustration.
What do you say to the person, Geri, that wants to buy today?
I think it's a fantastic opportunity. It is an environment where you can be very choosy in the product that you'd like to select, as opposed to a few years ago when there was almost little or no product to select from. You really had to settle. Today you don't have to settle, and you can get a tremendous value.
Let me ask you one of the questions that that everybody wants to know. Real estate agents want to know this. Buyers and sellers want to know this. I want to know it. Have we hit the bottom of the market?
You know, my opinion, if we haven't hit it, we are very close to it, and close enough to where any kind of fluctuation from here forward would be minimal and would not have a significant impact on someone investing today.
So, once again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Geri Martucci for joining us here today. It was fantastic having you. You're obviously quite knowledgeable about short sales.
Oh, thanks, JC. It's been a pleasure being here.
And for those of you out there, let me just remind you that we put a brand new show up every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. It's then available for viewing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Next week, we're going to be talking about the real estate agent and marketing in this environment and getting the most bang out of your buck. In fact, we're going to be talking about some things that cost next to nothing. So Thanks for joining us here on RealEstateLive.tv, and we'll see you next week with a brand new show.